As a big fan of Dragon Age Origins, I have been eagerly awaiting the next title in this series, Dragon Age Inquisition. So you can probably guess what my reaction was when EA invited me over to try the game a little early. So last week, EA kindly flew me over to London and allowed me to play Dragon Age Inquisition. Now I was supposed to play for about 4 hours, but unfortunately due to massive delays from the airport to the event, I only got to play for an hour and a half, which is barely anything. I really only just made it out of the start tutorial known as the prologue, and unfortunately I am not allowed to show you any of the footage from the prologue, so all I can show you is the first 15 minutes of the game that I played after the prologue and some of the character creation. And whilst this starting area does not do the game justice, I will try to describe to you my experience. So of course you start off by choosing a race, and you can be a human, an elf, a dwarf, or the Canary, the horned giants. You then pick a class, and you can be a rogue who uses dual wielding, a rogue who uses archery, a warrior that uses the great big two-handed weapons, a sword and board warrior, and of course a mage. You have an option for 4 different difficulty settings. You've got easy, normal, hard, and nightmare, but because I was strapped for time, I decided to play as normal. I wanted to try and get as far as possible, and I'm glad I did because, as I said, I only got about 15 minutes into the game after the prologue. There are quite a lot of customizations you can make to your character, his face, and so on. The system's pretty easy once you get used to it. There is a system where you click on the portrait and hold the mouse button down, and as you move left or right, your character's whatever feature you're editing becomes either wider or narrower or goes up and down, and so on. You'll figure it out pretty quickly, and it does give you quite a lot of control. I didn't spend a huge amount of time on this area, but from what I could see, it did look like it had enough customizations to really satisfy most people. And so once I'd selected my character, I start the game, and you enter what they were calling the prologue, which kind of acts as a tutorial and as an introduction to the story. Now, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but it's fairly standard stuff. There is something special about you that's going to allow you, hopefully, to save the world, or perhaps damn it, you don't quite know. And you meet a variety of characters in those early stages, some of whom are going to join you on your quest. The story is very well delivered. You really do get that epic feeling. For those of you that were fans of Dragon Age Origins, you know that kind of feeling you get, you know the sort of atmosphere that game gave you. This game seems to be recapturing that, at least in the beginning. And just like Dragon Age Origins, you get some characters that join you for the fight, for the adventure, and they have very different personalities, some of them more likeable than others. And in actual fact, the dialogue with a lot of these characters was very well done, because you got a lot of feedback as to the emotions that you were getting from those characters. Because sometimes it's quite hard for games to give you the idea that somebody didn't like what you say. The game's fairly abrupt in telling you that. It does sort of give you, okay, this person didn't like what you just said, so you pick up these hints. But it also tells you the attitude and the mood of the comments you are going to make. So if you are given an option of lines, You also get an indication as to whether the option is a question, whether it's perhaps sarcasm, whether it's aggressive or friendly. You get an indication from the game as to how it's going to be delivered, which is great because there's nothing worse than being in a game and delivering a line thinking you mean it friendly, only to hear the character say it and it sounds like abject sarcasm, and you think, no, that's not what I wanted to go for. So it makes the conversations fairly easy to navigate without making mistakes. The cutscenes were very cinematic, they were delivered well, the lines were read well, as you would expect from a game of this caliber, and all in all, it generally just feels like you are in a movie. In those moments when you are interacting with people having dialogue or a cutscene, you do feel like you're on an epic tale rather than in a game. When not in dialogue, when travelling around the world, the graphics are great. The graphics are great. Now, the footage you're seeing from the beginning is probably not the best footage to showcase the game, to be honest. The prologue was great. A lot of the scenes were very dark, very intimidating and sinister, and very cool. And the interior lighting areas were very well done indeed. But the starting areas are all very bright and out in the sunshine, and you don't really get an impression of how the game could look. So that is unfortunate, but again, I cannot show you that. Now, I can't tell you how the game progresses after that because I didn't get very far, but I got the impression that you had to go to different areas and win the favour of whoever was in power in that area. That was just my impression. I might be wrong. I will update you on this because I am hopefully going to get another look at this very soon and tell you if my guess was correct. So I can't tell you much about the story or how the game progresses from this point onwards. I can tell you that the game mechanics are fairly easy to pick up. They were fairly instinctive. The character development, for example, was pretty much as you'd expect. As you level up, you can assign skills or perks, unlock new abilities, and that type of thing. Because I only played for a few minutes, I only got to, I think, level 2 or 3, so I didn't get to explore that much. The movement and general combat is pretty easy, pretty instinctive. There are two ways to play. You've got over the shoulder, where you're behind the main character and you're running around using the arrow keys and the mouse to look, and pretty much if you're in battle, your friends, your party members will do their own thing as you're controlling the main character. You can switch and play any of those characters as well. If you need one of those characters to do something specific, use a certain ability, you can very quickly and easily change to them, get them to heal you or cast a spell, and so on. But there was also something called tactical mode, and when you go into tactical mode, you sort of pan up and start looking at things from above. And instead of using the arrow keys to move, you use the mouse. You click at a certain point, and whichever character you're controlling moves over there. And I found that a lot easier to play when trying to move the party around. So if I wanted to move the party members around rather than the main character, I found it a lot easier to go into tactical mode. I felt more like a commander, distributing my troops, putting them in good places, telling them what to do, rather than just playing them directly. So I probably would use a mixture of both. I can tell you that on normal difficulty, you almost don't have to use the tactical camera as far as I played. Now, I didn't play very, very far, but everyone pretty much does what they need to do, and you can kill things reasonably easily. If you're going for a very immersive feeling where you really just want to play as the main character and let everyone else do their own thing, over the shoulder is probably the way you're going to want to play it. However, if you're playing it on the tougher difficulties, I'm going to guess, and it is a guess, I am going to guess that in combat you are going to spend a lot of time in the tactical camera, moving people to the correct place, coordinating your abilities and your spells to get the maximum effect. So if you're going to play on the hard difficulty, you're probably going to use a mixture of the two camera modes. Now, you can pause time in both of them, so you do have a lot of time to come up with tactics, to think about it, and you can pan around and look at things in this frozen time, like you're in bullet time, and formulate your plan. all round, I have to say the feeling I got from the game was very, very positive. I was rushing it a lot, so I wasn't able to savour the moments as much as I would normally when playing, but I still enjoyed it. And that's pretty amazing because I was suffering from extreme travel sickness and caffeine deficiency, which ordinarily would make me hate everything. And I did not hate this game. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee I am going to buy this when it is released and play it. I really do. I get that good feeling. I get a good vibe from this game. I only played for a little while. It was only it wasn't even a preview. It was a taster. But I liked what I tasted, and I am going to order the full meal. So, expect to see a lot more Dragon Age Inquisition on my channel.